Welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock with all of today's headlines as we'll be chatting about the UFC's welterweight picture, a possible rematch featuring two Brazilian stars, and Ronda Rousey could be making her first trip to Brazil to fight. Tatami out of Brazil is reporting that Ronda Rousey and Bethe Correia could be the two to headline the August 1st UFC 190 pay-per-view from Brazil. Correia is undefeated and has posted a 3-0 mark thus far in her UFC tenure with victories over Julie Kedzie, Jessamyn Duke, and most recently defeating Shayna Baszler at UFC 177 last August. Rousey announced that she will be taking some time off to film a movie after her most recent win over Kat Zingano last month. Guilherme Cruz of MMAfighting.com spoke with former UFC light heavyweight champion and current coach of Tough Brazil, Mauricio Shogun Rua, regarding his next fight. When asked about dropping down to middleweight, Shogun noted he wasn't sure because he could end up fighting Antonio Rogerio Nogueira in his next fight, but said the fight has not been presented yet to his team by the UFC. Tyron Woodley was a guest on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani this past week, and he has one fight in mind in his next outing, and that is with Johnny Hendricks to set up the next challenger for the welterweight title. Hendricks defeated Matt Brown this past weekend, but it is not guaranteed that will lead to an immediate title fight. Woodley is coming off wins over Dong Yun Kim and Kelvin Gastelum. And the callouts continue as we move to the heavyweight division with Todd Duffy appearing on MMA Junkie Radio, stating he would like to fight Frank Mir in his next fight. Duffy missed 2 years of action due to a nerve disorder known as Parsonage-Turner syndrome. He returned at UFC 181 this past December and stopped Anthony Hamilton in 33 seconds. We look ahead to this Saturday night as we present our Fight Network preview show at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, getting you set for all of the fights happening at Brazil, including the prelim bouts, which will be airing exclusively here in Canada on Fight Network, with 4 fights coming your way, and then the main card kicks off at 10 p.m. Eastern Time over on TSN, headlined by Ryan LaFleur and Damian Maia. Here with John Ramdeen and Robin Black, and we look back to UFC 185, and certainly a laundry list of injuries coming out of here. Broken hand for Roy Nelson. We have a partially torn MCL for the new lightweight champion, Rafael dos Anjos. He's going to be out of action 3 months. And as Robin Black correctly predicted on our post show on Saturday, a broken orbital bone for Anthony Pettis.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you're Anthony Pettis, much like Henan Barao, if I didn't have that broken orbital bone, I think I would have been more competitive. So if you're Anthony Pettis, is this a good excuse for you?
Well, an excuse is good if it's real, and this is real. He got a broken orbital bone, and with the first left hand, I believe. That's the one, it drilled him, and that's why I said I figured do not be surprised to see an orbital bone. You see that reaction. You've seen a lot of times where the guys react, he kind of doesn't know what to do. There's trauma to the whole eye area. Your brain is trying to figure out what it is. You think you have blood in your eye and you're trying to get it out. As soon as I saw that, and then it swells, it's bad, you know that's real. And it turned out to be real. But why did he have a broken orbit bone? Because
fighter, Robin Black.
Yeah, I had a couple broken bones up in the old noggin.
RDA did it.
RDA did it. He punched him in the face, drove these knuckles into that bone area around the eyeball, and busted his face. So you can say, well, I'd have fought better without a busted face, and you would have. But why did you have a busted face? Because your opponent did it. So it's not really an excuse. It did change the fight. When you break your orbital bone, you damage your eye, you lose depth perception. And a fighter like him, it's about timing and distance, and depth perception gone, the whole thing is out.
But if you're Duke Rufus, you're definitely saying, I 100% if we rematch Rafael dos Anjos, there is no way this fight, the second fight, will be anything like the first fight. Anthony Pettis, I think everybody in the world will agree this is the worst performance we've ever seen, and it's because he was injured. So I'm sure that they would have, probably the strategy would be the same. It's just the injury, and you talked about depth perception, and he just couldn't deal with Rafael dos Anjos in that.
Well, I want to get both of your perspectives. If you are Duke Rufus, certainly this is a championship on the line at this point. At what point in that fight are you preserving your athlete for another day and not doing long-term damage here? I mean, the guy said early on he couldn't see out of that eye of his, and certainly that fight, the momentum was not changing. I understand that you're giving away a championship at that point if you're to say, hey, no more. But at the end of the day here, I mean, you have your fighter that is going through all of this damage. at what point do you kind of just call it? At this
Yeah,
point?
I'm sure there is a responsibility, but Anthony Pettis is a grown man. He has the responsibility, even if it's, I know there's cameras involved, so there has to be some sort of code. I would expect that if you want out of a fight, have some sort of communication.
Yeah, typically, when I can't see out of my eye, that's typically a code.
Well, then the doctor should come in. That's where the doctor should say, okay, if this guy can't see out of his eye, it's my responsibility to call it.
I think if Duke said to Anthony, a driven champion who's desperate to win with everything in his life, he said to him, son, and he is like a son to him, he said, son, I'm worried about your eye. I think we should stop it. Anthony would have said, absolutely not, Duke. Please don't stop it. Also, he is the type of young man that can finish a fight that he's losing at any moment with one punch or kick. He knows it. Duke knows it. This is his life. He desperately wants that opportunity, and I would have let him fight. I think the right thing to do is let him fight. If he had,
But what if it's the second round and you know that there's still 3 more rounds and he's going to take damage over the next 3 rounds because he simply can't see, which means he's not going to be able to see the blows coming.
If he landed a vicious uppercut or a knee or flew off the fence and knocked him unconscious in the 5th round, and then we came out and said, oh my God, he had a broken orbital bone, we wouldn't have this discussion. We'd go, how brilliant is it? He's the type of man who can handle that and do that. And that's the opportunity that you want to give the young man. That's the opportunity you want to give him as a friend and a coach and a father figure. That's the opportunity that he wants. He knows what he's doing. He's desperate. You've got to give him the chance.
That's why the sport's awesome.
Really quick, does Pettis get the loser of Cerrone Nurmagomedov? Is that the easiest fight to make?
Oh, geez. It depends on what happens with Rafael dos Anjos. I think they have to figure out what happens with Cowboy and the Eagle, figure out that, and then move on from there.
Well,
because
winner and loser, I think that makes the easiest sense in the world. We have more Fight News Now Extra, so stick around. It's coming up as we speak.